What if I told you that you're not actually making what you think you're making? That the number on your paycheck is a carefully constructed illusion hiding the brutal truth about what you're really earning? Picture this scenario, because I guarantee it happened to you within the last month. It's 5:30 p.m. on a Friday. You've just survived another 45-hour work week. You're physically in your car or on the train, but mentally, you're completely fried. The idea of cooking dinner seems about as appealing as climbing Mount Everest. So you pull up the delivery app, Thai food, pizza, burgers, $45 with tip and fees. You get home, crack open a beer or pour a glass of wine to take the edge off, sink into the couch to binge a show you don't even really like, just to turn your brain off. You tell yourself, I earned this. I work hard all week. But what if I told you that mathematically you didn't just spend $45? The pizza, the gas you burned driving home, the nice shirt you wore to the office, and the stress that forced you to order that food in the first place are all hidden taxes, reducing your salary by nearly 70%. You think you're selling your time for $30 an hour, but after we do the forensic accounting on your life, the math proves you might be working for less than $4 an hour. I am your Mr. Brother, and I spend way too much time obsessing over the invisible equations that govern our lives and keep us running on hamster wheels moving slightly faster than we can run. If you're someone who looks at your paycheck and wonders where it all goes, or if you feel like you're working harder in late 2025 than ever before but your savings account is basically flat, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Because today, we aren't talking about investing. We're talking about an accounting fraud, not one committed by a corporation, but one you're unknowingly committing against yourself every single time you accept a job offer based on gross salary. We're going to calculate your real hourly wage, and I have to warn you, once you see this number, you'll never look at a price tag the same way again. Here's the fundamental lie we've all been sold from the moment we graduate. We're told that our value is defined by our annual salary. If you make $65,000 a year, that's roughly $31 an hour. That sounds decent, respectable, enough to live on, theoretically. But in the business world, looking at revenue without looking at expenses is how companies go bankrupt. If a bakery sells $1 million worth of bread but spends $1,001 on flour and rent, that bakery is worth zero. Yet when it comes to our own labor, we only look at the revenue, the salary. We completely ignore the cost of goods sold, and the good being sold is you, your life, your energy. And the cost of selling yourself to an employer is astronomical. Let's perform a brutal audit of a hypothetical average worker in this economy. Let's call him James. James makes that respectable $31 an hour working a standard corporate job. But before that money even hits his account, the government takes its cut. Between federal tax, state tax, and FICA, that $31 is instantly shaved down to about $24. That's the easy math. We all know that part. But now we have to subtract the work-related costs. These are the expenses James pays solely for the privilege of having his job. First, the commute. The average American spends thousands of dollars a year on gas, car maintenance, and insurance just to get to the building where they make the money. If James drives 30 minutes each way, that's wear and tear on a vehicle he basically only owns to get to work. If he takes the train, it's the monthly pass. Let's conservatively say this costs him $4,000 a year. Then there's the cost of appearance. James can't roll out of bed and show up to the office in his pajamas. He needs business casual clothes. He needs dry cleaning. He needs to look professional. That's an expense. Then there's the convenience tax. This is the big one. Because James is at the office from 9 to 5, he buys lunch twice a week because he didn't have time to meal prep. He buys the $5 coffee because he needs the caffeine to survive the 2 p.m. meeting. He pays for the dog walker because he isn't home to let the dog out. He orders takeout on Friday because he's too exhausted to cook. These are costs that would not exist if he didn't have the job. He's spending money to work. And then there's the darkest category of all, decompression spending. This is the money James spends to numb the pain of the job. It's the Friday night bar tab to blow off steam. It's the impulsive vacation he books because he desperately needs to get away. It's the therapy bills to deal with work stress. It's the retail therapy, the online shopping at midnight when he can't sleep because he's anxious about Monday. It's the money we spend to heal the damage the job inflicts on our psyche. When you add all these monetary costs up, the taxes, the car, the clothes, the lunches, the numbness, James isn't taking home $65,000. His net real income might be closer to $35,000. But we're only halfway through the equation because wage is a function of money divided by time. And just like we overestimate the money, we drastically underestimate the time. HR says James works 40 hours a week. But that's a lie. James wakes up at 6:30 a.m. to shower, shave, and iron his shirt. That's 30 minutes of labor for the employer that he doesn't get paid for. He drives 30 minutes to work. That's unpaid labor. He takes an hour for lunch, which is technically off the clock, but he can't go home, he can't nap, he can't play with his kids, he's held captive by the office. Then he drives 30 minutes home. Then when he gets home, he spends 30 minutes decompressing, staring at the wall, venting to his partner about his boss, checking emails on his phone. All of this is shadow work. It's time that belongs to the job, but the job doesn't pay for it. If you add up the grooming, the commuting, the captive lunch hour, the decompressing, and the worrying, James isn't working 40 hours a week. He's dedicating 55 or 60 hours a week to his employment. So now let's do the real math, the real hourly wage calculation. We take that whittled down net income of $35,000 and we divide it by the inflated true hours of nearly 3,000 hours a year. When you punch that into a calculator, that $31 an hour evaporates. Suddenly, James is making $11 an hour, or $8, or in some high-stress, high-cost-of-living scenarios, he's mathematically making less than the teenager flipping burgers down the street. Because the teenager walks to work, wears a uniform provided by the company, and leaves his stress at the fry station. This is the work scam. You've been tricked into a high-churn, low-margin business model where you are the product, and you're selling yourself at a loss. And look, I know this sounds depressing. You might be thinking, great, I'm broke and my job sucks. Thanks for the update. But the reason we do this math isn't to make you depressed, it's to make you angry. And more importantly, to make you efficient. Because once you know your real hourly wage, your entire view of consumerism changes. This is a concept popularized by the book Your Money or Your Life, and it's the antidote to being broke. Let's say you calculate your real hourly wage and it turns out to be $10 an hour. Now you walk into a store and see a new pair of shoes for $100. The price tag says $100, but your brain needs to translate that. That isn't $100, that's 10 hours of your life. That's 10 hours of sitting in traffic, dealing with passive-aggressive emails, missing your family, tolerating meetings that could have been emails. Is that pair of shoes worth 10 hours of suffering? Suddenly, the answer is almost always no. This changes everything. That new phone you were thinking about buying? That's not $700. That's 70 hours of your life, almost 2 full work weeks. That subscription you barely use? That's not $15 a month. That's 90 minutes of your life every single month, forever, until you cancel it. When you translate every purchase into hours of life energy, spending becomes painful in a way that makes you stop and actually think. This math also exposes the trap of the golden handcuffs. We often take promotions that offer more money but come with exponentially higher costs. Let's say James gets promoted to manager. They offer him a $10,000 raise. Awesome, right? But now he has to work late every night, so he orders takeout every night instead of cooking. That's an extra $3,000 a year. He needs to buy nicer suits to look the part. That's another $2,000. He needs a second car because he can't carpool anymore with his erratic schedule. That's $5,000 in payments and insurance. His stress levels skyrocket, so he books a more expensive vacation to decompress. That's another $3,000. And now he's not working 55 hours a week, but 65 hours a week when you include all the shadow work. You might actually find that your real hourly wage goes down after a promotion. You're processing more money through your bank account, but you're keeping less of it and giving up more of your life to get it. This is the illusion of progress. You got promoted, you're making more money, everyone congratulates you, but mathematically, you just took a pay cut. There's also a hidden opportunity cost here that's terrifying. When you spend your money on the costs of working, the commute, the convenience food, the decompression spending, you're robbing your future self of compound interest. That $5 a day on coffee because you're too tired to brew it at home, over 30 years invested at 7%, that's nearly $200,000. You aren't just drinking coffee, you're drinking your retirement, you're drinking your freedom. Every dollar you spend to tolerate your job is a dollar that can't grow into financial independence. The system relies on you being too exhausted to do this math. They rely on you being a passive consumer of your own life. They want you to think, I make good money, so you keep signing the lease on the luxury apartment and financing the nice car, keeping you trapped in the cycle of needing the job to pay for the things you bought to tolerate the job. It's a perfect prison, and the walls are invisible. Let me give you another example to drive this home. Meet Sarah. She makes $75,000 a year. Sounds pretty good, right? She works in marketing at a tech company. Business casual dress code, hour commute each way, stressful deadlines. After taxes, she's taking home about $55,000. But let's look at her work-related expenses. Commute. She drives an hour each way. Gas, insurance, maintenance, depreciation on her car, $6,000 a year. Wardrobe. She needs to look polished. Professional clothes, dry cleaning, shoes, accessories, $3,000 a year. Convenience costs. She buys lunch out 3 times a week, coffee every morning, dog walker, meal delivery on busy nights, $5,000 a year. Decompression, monthly massages for stress, weekend trips to escape, happy hour drinks, impulse online shopping, $6,000 a year. That's $20,000 in expenses directly caused by having the job. So her real take-home is $35,000. Now let's look at time. She wakes up at 6 a.m. to get ready, commutes 2 hours total, works 9 hours including lunch, gets home at 7 p.m., spends an hour decompressing and checking work emails. That's 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, connected to her job, 60 hours a week, 3,120 hours a year. 35,000 divided by 3,120 equals $11.22 per hour. Sarah thinks she makes $75,000 a year, but her real wage is $11.22 an hour, less than many entry-level retail positions that require no degree and no commute. This is the hidden truth that nobody talks about. So what's the solution? How do we break this equation? The answer isn't necessarily quit your job tomorrow and live in the woods. We have to be realistic. We have bills. The solution is to ruthlessly optimize your real hourly wage. This becomes the new metric for success, not income, but efficiency. Here's specific actions you can take. Number 1, negotiate remote work. Can you work from home 2 or 3 days a week? If you save 2 hours of commuting and $10 of gas per day, that's 4 hours and $20 per week. Over a year, that's 200 hours and over $1,000. You just gave yourself a massive raise without the company paying you a dime more. Number 2, move closer to work or find work closer to home. This might seem drastic, but run the numbers. If you're spending 2 hours a day commuting, that's 500 hours a year. At your real hourly wage of $10, that commute is costing you $5,000 in life energy, plus the actual monetary cost. Moving closer might increase your rent by $300 a month, but if it eliminates the commute, you're actually coming ahead in both time and money. Number 3, start meal prepping. Spend 3 hours on Sunday preparing meals for the week. This eliminates the convenience food tax. You're not buying lunch, you're not ordering delivery when you're too tired to cook. That's potentially saving you $3,000 to $5,000 a year. 3 hours of work on Sunday to save $5,000 is $1,666 per hour. That's the highest paying job you'll ever have. Number 4, audit your decompression spending. Make a list of every purchase you make specifically because work is stressful. The drinks after work, the stress shopping, the expensive vacations you need to recover. Not saying you can't ever do these things, but be conscious of which expenses are directly caused by job stress. Then ask yourself, is there a lower stress job I could take that pays slightly less but eliminates $10,000 in decompression spending? You might actually come ahead. Number 5, stop caring what your coworkers think of your clothes. This is psychological, but it matters. If you're spending thousands on wardrobe to impress people you don't even like, that's insane. Simplify your wardrobe. Wear the same thing every day if you can, Steve Jobs style. Every dollar of work expense you cut is a dollar of pure freedom. But the biggest shift is psychological. You have to start treating your labor like a business. A smart business owner doesn't just try to increase revenue, they try to increase profit margin. Your life is the business. Your margin is the time and money you have left over to actually be a human being.
If you're making $100,000 a year, but you're spending 95,000 and 80 hours a week to generate it, you're a failing business. You're Enron. You're waiting to collapse. But if you make $50,000 a year, spend $20,000 and work 30 hours a week, you're a highly profitable, robust enterprise. You're winning. This is the difference between revenue and profit. Most people optimize for revenue. They chase the higher salary, the impressive title, the corner office, but the truly wealthy optimize for profit margin, for the gap between what comes in and what goes out, for the time they get to keep for themselves. This is where the negative epiphany turns into positive action. I want you to sit down this weekend, not when you're tired on Friday, but when you're fresh on Sunday morning. Run the numbers for yourself. Calculate your commute cost, gas, maintenance, insurance, depreciation on your car, or your transit pass. Be brutally honest about your decompression spending. The drinks, the shopping, the expensive escapes. Add up all your work-related expenses. Subtract that from your after-tax income. Now calculate your true time commitment. Include getting ready time, commute time, captive lunch time, decompression time, email checking time. Divide your net pay by your total hours. Write that number on a sticky note and put it on your credit card. My real wage is $8.50. The next time you go to buy something, look at that number. Ask yourself, am I willing to trade 4 hours of my life for this thing? Here's another powerful reframe. Every time you decline a purchase, you're not just saving money, you're buying back hours of your life. When you decide not to buy that $100 item, you just bought back 10 hours. 10 hours you don't have to work. 10 hours you can spend with your kids, pursuing a hobby, building a side business, or just sleeping. You're literally purchasing your own time back from your employer. This inverts the entire psychology of spending. Spending isn't treating yourself. Spending is selling more of your life. Saving isn't deprivation. Saving is buying back your freedom. Once you see it this way, everything changes. Let me address the obvious objection. This is great, but I have bills to pay. I can't just not work. I'm not suggesting you quit your job tomorrow. I'm suggesting you become conscious of the true exchange rate between your life and your money. Because once you're conscious of it, you start making different choices. Maybe you realize that promotion isn't worth it. Maybe you start aggressively looking for a lower stress job that pays slightly less, but has a better real wage. Maybe you start a side business that you can run from home, eliminating commute costs entirely. Maybe you realize you need to move to a lower cost of living area where the same salary goes further. Maybe you decide to embrace minimalism and drastically cut your expenses, which lowers how much you need to earn, which means you need to work less. The possibilities open up once you understand the math. We're living in an era where time is becoming the ultimate currency. The rich are buying time. They're paying people to clean their houses, cook their meals, run their errands, manage their schedules. Poor are selling time, often at a massive discount because they don't realize what they're actually earning. Start building a gap between your income and your expenses because that gap is where your freedom lives. That gap is where you stop being a wage slave and start being a free human being. I want to leave you with one final thought. Your life is happening right now. Not after you retire, not after you get promoted, not after you finally make enough money, right now. Every hour you spend working, every hour you spend commuting, every hour you spend recovering from work stress is an hour you'll never get back. The question isn't whether you're making enough money. The question is whether the life you're living right now is worth the price you're paying for it. Because you are paying a price in time, in energy, in stress, in missed moments with people you love. Make sure the math works out in your favor. If this video made you rethink your paycheck, share it with a coworker who looks tired. We're all in this same trap, but we can math our way out of it together. Hit that subscribe button for more content that challenges how you think about work and money. And I'll see you in the next one. Stay free.